Training camp is 9 days away for the Chicago Bulls. Media Day is 8 days away. We're going to take a look at what are the things to kind of expect from this team heading into training camp. And it's Sunday, so that means it's Mailbag Day. We're going to get into your voicemails today. All that and more on today's Chicago Bulls Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Sir Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to talk a little bit about training camp, a training camp primer, I guess if you want to call it something like that. There are a lot of things to monitor in training camp, but I think one of the most important things coming out that's going to go into training camp is how this team comes together. I've talked about, in yesterday's episode, wanting the team to avoid distractions in the 2024-25 season with all the narratives around the team, but how you really start that off is a really good training camp where this team really bonds together as a team, and how Zach LaVine integrates back into this team. This is not the same team that he left by any stretch of the imagination. It's changed both with the makeup of the roster, the personnel that you have here, but as well as even some of the players, one in Kobe White and even Ayo Dosunmu, I think as well, have really stepped up considerably since you were gone and really kind of gotten back on that track to show that these guys could be, huge parts of the future of the Chicago Bulls. So Zach LaVine, a two-time All-Star, he's going to start off the season with the Bulls. How does he end the season is the question a lot of fans are asking. But, even before then, how he integrates into this team is one of the most important things. And it's up for Billy Donovan to set that expectation as a team, but that's also as Zach LaVine as a player to come in here and to realize that whatever your goal is, right? Whether Zach LaVine's goal is to just win, whether it's to stay with the Bulls, whether it's to go somewhere else and do whatever that is, the best thing for Zach LaVine is to come into this Bulls team and fit in, right? Whatever that looks like is fit in and guide. And you look at both Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic to that manner is that these guys, now they're veteran presence, and Zach LaVine is a veteran, right? That's one thing that we have to look at now. He's been in the NBA over a decade. He is a veteran. He's going to help or should help set that tone. Now, I don't expect Zach LaVine to be the vocal leader because that's just not who he's been throughout his career. Kobe White's growing into that guy. Modest Bucilis can be that guy eventually. I would assume was a leader on the court, but I don't know how much he's going to do the rah-rah things. But it's time for Zach LaVine to fit in and do what's needed, not only to help him, but it also helped put these younger players in a better position. And through doing that, it may calm down some of the talk around Zach LaVine. I'm not going to say it's going to fix it 100%, but it could start going in that direction of fixing some things as well. This team needs to avoid drama, which is why I talked about yesterday avoiding controversies, right? But outside of just that, what it takes to a power dynamic in a team, right? And that's what a pecking order, I guess more so to say in a team. This team is going to be trying to figure out that pecking order. This is maybe the first time in a while where that pecking order does need to be distributed a little bit more, right? That does need to be figured out a little bit more than what it was before. The last 3 seasons, we knew it was going to be Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic getting the lion's shares of the shots. Even when Lonzo Ball was here, he was more of a piece that was there to help get everybody the ball and as well as play defense, get out in transition, things like that. Zach LaVine is now coming to a role where, hey, listen, you got Kobe White who stepped up, who could be looking to be that team's leading scorer, right? You got Ayo Dosunmu as well who theoretically is going to be coming off the bench, but him and Kobe White have shown themselves to have some potential to be a dynamic backcourt themselves. And so now you're coming into that trying to figure that out. So a Zach LaVine who really kind of maybe plays some time with the bench unit, right? Has that stint, not coming off the bench, but as bench players comes in, he's kind of with that team. Maybe that's where he gets off and is a little bit more ball dominant, right? You allow those things to happen because you have Ayo coming off that bench, Modest Bucilis. They can feed off of what Zach LaVine does. Ayo can help create those fast breaks. So Zach LaVine and the dynamic here with this team is going to be really important for that. And Nikola Vucevic as well. Like Vuce has already been somebody through his comments this offseason has basically, made it clear that he doesn't quite know what the balance of this team is going to be and how pieces and things are going to fit in. And I think that's a level of honesty from Vuce that I embrace. I'm not mad at that at all. I know some people really took some questions there, but figuring out everybody's role this season is going to be big, right? Are they going to go back to when Zach LaVine was basically the offense back in the late 2010s, right? Like before the Vooch and everybody who came here. Is he going to go back more to that? Or is he going to go more towards, still trying to keep up a style where you have a 1A, 1B, whatever it is, and really facilitate a little bit more, right? Like, yeah, he's going to have to take a back seat if everybody else is going to thrive. You now have two ball handlers on the offensive side of the ball in Josh Giddey and Kobe White, and how he stepped up handling the ball. Already trying to figure out that dynamic is going to be interesting, right? And a Zach LaVine that embraces more of the catch and shoot opportunities. Yeah, you may not have the ball in your hands as much, but you could be an even more potent scorer for the Bulls if those things come along. So that's a big story. Vooch, LaVine, how these guys kind of, how they fit in, right? How they allow themselves to fit in, which Vooch has kind of already done. Like the team with people going down, things like that, his shots changing, where he gets his offense has already shown the ability to basically, he's going to try to adapt. He may not be always good at it, but he's going to try to adapt offensively. Defensively, Vooch is who he is. And then Kobe White. Like Kobe White does he make another leap, or is it a refinement and a step forward? And even if it is just a step forward and a refinement of what he did last year, that's fine. Now, what do you give defensively? Things like that. So, Kobe White also embracing the leadership role, maybe even embracing that clutch role, things like that. So it's really interesting, man. Like the two-man game that we once saw with LaVine and Vooch when Vooch initially came here, you're not going to see that again because LaVine isn't theoretically going to be handling the ball as much as that. So it's going to be a change for this team. And then you still got to figure out how to work in Lamontis Busilis, right? Where does he get his shots? Where does he get his time? Patrick Williams down with DeMar gone. How much of a bigger role does he have in the offense? These are things that we're asking and questioning, and we'll see what ultimately happens, man. And like I've said before on previous episodes, and I'll bring it back to this one as well, don't overlook Billy Donovan's role in this as well. As the head coach of an NBA team that is trying to find its way, this is where your coaching and your staff is going to do some of the most important work. And can they do that? Can they bring it? Can they find a balance with the talent that you have here? Because this team still does have talent. How it fits together, that's where I have my doubts at. But we got some talent on this team. How do you use it, Billy Donovan, right? How do you adjust to it? Like, and one thing as well, I've said a lot this offseason about how I expect the Bulls' offensive play style to change. But that comes down to Billy Donovan instilling that play style in training camp. And is he going to really do that, right? Because while this team does have now the makeup of a team that likes to get fast, that theoretically wants to get out in transition, get up the court fast, things like that, when it makes sense, if Billy Donovan doesn't coach to that, if he doesn't, instill that into this team early, as well as moving off the ball, moving without the ball. We have not had a solid movement off the ball outside of like Alex Caruso, Javonte Green doing it consistently. We don't typically have that. And so that's something that you do look at the coach for, because Billy Donovan, as a head coach in the NBA level, if your players aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing or needed for your system, it's your job to stop practice and ask them, what the fuck are you doing, right? And so Billy, a coach that really relies on his veterans to kind of allow his veterans to do their thing, that's where it gets into the question of, is Zach LaVine going to kind of try to fit in and complement what we have, or is he going to try to go back to late 2010s LaVine, where it was him, ball handling, things like that, like going into business for himself because he had to then. You don't necessarily have to now. So the storylines of this team are super interesting. I can't wait for training camp to start. I can't wait for the season to start, because we have so many theoretical storylines here for the Bulls and things to look out for. And keep in mind, throughout all of this in this segment, I didn't even mention Josh Giddey for real, and him as a point guard, how he operates that offense really for the most part. Like Josh Giddey's ball handling, his rebounding as well on the defensive side to turn into transition opportunities for the team. That really could be one of the biggest things as far as just one catalyst to change the way that we play. And so Josh Giddey has an enormous question around him as well. It's like, are you that guy? Are you that guy that, again, not to say that the team needs to be built around, I'm not saying that at all, but can you be the type of point guard that really changes the tone offensively by the way that you use the pieces around you, right? And we have that part of it as well. And like, I mean, there's easily 3 or 4 more storylines that I could mention. Like, so training camp is hugely important. I think for sometimes when you have a team that kind of doesn't have a lot of change and turnover, when we've bet on continuity for a while, like training camp becomes more and more mundane as your team stays the same. And not in the sense that that necessarily means bad. It has for the Bulls, but it doesn't necessarily mean bad if you just have your system, you have your players, and they've stuck around for a while. But this is one of the first shifts in personnel, major shifts in personnel, and potential major shifts in play style that the Bulls have had basically since the last version of the team came together. Now you got to establish yourself. You got to establish your pecking order. You got to establish your rotations. You got to establish the vibe and the feel of your team. And that's what training camp is going to mean this year for the Bulls. And I know media day is before that. Media day is 8 days away. Training camp opens in 9 days, the day after that. But we're going to see what everybody says. But their words, we're going to see if those words match up with what we see shortly thereafter. And I can't wait for it. You guys can let me know how you feel down below. But with that said, it is Sunday, so that means it is Mailbag Day. Let's go ahead and get into these voicemails today. This first one that we have today, this one is from Brian Washington.
Hey, what's up, hey? This is Brian from the West Side. The subject about Kobe being the face of the team, I'm like, right now he is the face of the team because he's our best player right now. DeMar gone, everybody gone, and plan is to trade Levine, whatever, if that may be the case. But right now, to me, he is the face of the team, and I think he's gonna pick that up. I think he knows his place right now, and he learned a lot last year. I think he ready to step up, like whether Levine here or not. I think he's still the face of the team right now. That's how Bulls fans look at him right now because he our type player. The player he was last year, that's the type player we like to watch. You know what I'm saying? And as far as Josh Giddey, I don't think it'll be putting nothing in the Bulls, jeopardize the Bulls' future plans. Like if he have a bad season this season, you know what I'm saying? He's fresh on the team. He just got on the team, and everybody want all these trades. The Bulls just traded, just signed a lot of young guys. We kind of stacked with assets. You know what I'm saying? We keep trading them off. We'll never get a team because we keep trading our young players. You know what I'm saying? They talking about trading Kobe and shit already. I'm like, damn, man, just had a nice year. It's like, let's ride it. You know what I'm saying? Don't give up on these guys just because they go have a bad season this year. Hopefully they have a good season, but even if they don't, it's like, damn, let them play together. Let them grow. Let them play. That's how you going to pick your team. You're going to feel your team. Now, everybody talking about Cooper Flag. He might not be shit when he get in the league. I'm talking about might not be shit at all when he gets to the NBA. So let's not bank on that. We got some good guys now. We just got to play them and develop them and let them grow together. Whether they have a bad season, this team is just now put together. There's a lot of new faces on this team. So you got to let them play together. You can't go off this one season. Shit, they gave DeMar them 3 years. Let's get these young guys a few years to play together. You know what I'm saying? So what you think about that, man?
Kobe White, the face of the team right now. I agree with that, right? I think that he's kind of the de facto face of the team. And the team was trying to move Levine this offseason, so of course they're going to use Kobe White while they're trying to move Levine. Now let's see how much Levine gets back into that marketing material and stuff, right? But this is like the first year that the City Edition jersey, even in the tees, it was Kobe White in that. It's the first year that it hasn't been Zach LaVine since Zach LaVine came here. So that's another thing to look at. But the question is Kobe ready to step up? I think he is, right? I think he is. I think he has the mentality. I think what he went through last season while having DeMar still here and kind of the turmoil around the team, even hitting the wall that he hit and having kind of that finish. Like when a player has a great season and they finish it bad, right? It's a tough, rough finish. That may be one of the best things that a player can do while also having a really leap of a season, because now that hunger is still that's the last thing that he felt is that hunger, that desire to prove. I mean, Kobe's already a motivated guy. He goes into every offseason and puts in a lot of work. So I don't know how much that was needed, but yeah, Kobe's important there. Now, you said that you don't think that Josh Giddey not fitting in or having a horrible season would impact the Bulls' future that much. I don't think you're trying to understand the gravity. Like if Josh Giddey and Kobe White just look horrible together, I think that does affect their future plans. Not to say necessarily that they won't still re-sign Josh Giddey and give it another go, right? We've seen players have some questionable fit in year one and maybe in year two. You start refining that, right? I still think they're be more apt to give Josh Giddey another contract. But if you don't think that in the back of their minds that team is looking and saying, hey, let's start monitoring this, because if we have it, because Kobe White's up at the end of next year, we got to start. If by the end of next season, not this season, next season, they still look like just a pairing that just does not work, that definitely changes something. It definitely does. And I think, I'm not saying that necessarily they'll choose Josh Giddey over Kobe, but it does, I think, make a choice on kind of where the direction of the roster has to go at that point. Now, as far as you said, the Bulls were stacked with assets. Stacked, no. The Spurs are stacked with assets. The OKC Thunder are stacked with assets. the Brooklyn Nets are starting to be stacked with assets as far as draft picks. They just don't have necessarily young players there. They're stacked. The Utah Jazz have a lot of picks, right? Those are teams that are stacked with assets. The Bulls really only added 3 young players. They added Josh Giddey, Jalen Smith, and Modest Bucilis, right? That's really it to a young core. And so you're hoping. Jalen Smith is a guy who you're hoping with more extra minutes and an added level of responsibility, he'll do more because he hasn't really gotten a whole lot of minutes over his NBA career, but he's been a productive player. But to say stacked with assets, no, we're not stacked. We have the assets that you expect the team to have. We have all our first-round picks other than the one that we owe to the Spurs. We've got a nice young crop of players that we're hoping are all going to step up. And to your point, you want to see how these guys can build together. But to say that we're not at the point. The only time that you can get to a point where you're not still looking to add assets is when you have a sure superstar around you. The Bulls don't have that yet. They just don't have that. So until then, yes, they're always going to be looking. You can still build. You can do both. Two things can be true at the same time. But you're not going to rest on that. And even then, you may not rest on that because you start want to have the next young crop. So I think those are things that you may be missing, Brian Washington. But I definitely get what you're rooted in that. And I don't think the Bulls are all in on trying to bring in Cooper Flagg, or else we'd be tanking, and we're clearly not, at least not yet. But all right, let's get into the next voicemail. This one is from TJ.
Yo, what's up, hey? This TJ again, man. I know this is voicemail number 3J, but I feel like I'm just open for the question today. But this is basically regarding our young guys. I was wondering, who would you prefer to see take a leap this year of all the young guys? Like, would you prefer to see Dalen? Well, and I guess this is going to be kind of a two-part question. Of the starting young guys, which I would presume to be T. Will and Kobe, them would be the 2 starters. Between those 2, who would you prefer to see take a leap this upcoming year? And another one for the bench guys, who would you prefer to see take another leap? Would you prefer Phillips, Julian Phillips, or Dalen Terry? I could also throw Io in, even though we all know that, you know, anybody will pick Io over anybody over 3. So, but yeah, between Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry, who would you prefer to take a leap? Who do you think, if they take a leap, which one do you feel like would be more impactful? And what do you think they need to improve on, or what do you think they needed to have improved on in order for them to take this supposed jump or leap this upcoming season? But yeah, hopefully that's my last voicemail for the day, and I can leave some in the vault for future videos. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Have a blessing.
Which players do I prefer to take a leap in the starting lineup and in the bench? I'll say in the starting lineup, I'll say Patrick Williams, only because I think that Kobe just making another step, not a leap, gets you a far away. Like if he takes a step defensively, if he takes a step to refine his scoring a little bit more, if he refines what he already did last year, that's a damn good player. If Patrick Williams takes a leap while Kobe White maintains, or even, like I said, a little bit of a step forward in what he did last year, that adds another young piece that you can look at then and say that's a building block, not just a building piece, right? So I think that's how I look at that in the starting lineup. Now, off the bench, man, I still say I'll leave out Modest in this just because he's a rookie. He got more time. Honestly, and I'm not counting Io again because Io made a leap last year. He could make a step. So let me qualify that first and who I'm about to say. But I say Julian Phillips. If you get Julian Phillips to make a step to where he looks like he can be one of your first players off the bench with his energy, the shot blocking, the three-point shot, the defense, right? That adds a lot to your bench. So I'd say Julian Phillips is the guy that I hope for off the bench. But with that's with the qualifiers of what I gave before. That's with Io making a step, not necessarily having to make a leap based off what he did last season. So that's my answer. It was a bit of a cop-out, yeah, but it is what it is. That's my answer. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one is from Bastion.
Yo, what's going on, Hayes? This is Bastion. Been listening to you about a year and became a first-time subscriber today and first-time caller today. So I just want to give you a shout-out. Wish you much success in this upcoming season and year. Thank you for giving me my daily Bulls fix. I also want to comment on the season coming forward and just say, yeah, I'm a big Bulls fan. I'm always going to root for winning rather than losing. Currently, I'm neutral on Josh Giddey, but I'm excited about everybody else. I think Modest is going to be great. I think Kobe's going to take a leap. Io's going to take a leap. I think Dalen's going to surprise some people. I think Zach is going to come out focused, and I think Billy has something to prove, so he's going to be doing what he can, whatever he can, to make sure this team is successful. But ultimately, everything will hinge on what the front office priorities are. So if they're pushing for that pick, they might mix things up. If they're pushing for success, they might let Billy ride as long as he's being successful. That's pretty much all I got, Hayes. Just want to thank you again for doing an awesome job and giving me something to listen to for the Bulls every day. Have a good one. Bye.
Neutral on Josh Giddey. I think that's fair, right? I don't think Josh Giddey's done or necessarily anything to be head over heels for Josh Giddey. Yet you want to see how he's going to fit on this team. Kobe taking another leap. Let's see. Like if he takes another leap, and that maybe I look at leap differently than people, but another leap to me would be Kobe going from 19 points per game to 25 points per game on close to 50, 40, 90 efficiency, right? And then maybe taking a step up defensively. That's the next leap for Kobe. I don't know if that leap is there. I've learned to not put a cap on Kobe White, so maybe it is. And if he does that, great. But if he takes a step, we're talking about going from 19 to 20, 21, 22 points per game on decent efficiency as well. That's a step, not a leap to me. And that's still a huge place where Kobe's at that point in time. Now, Dalen Terry surprising people. Woo! Listen, if a Dalen Terry has a surprise season for the Bulls, man, that would take this thing off, right? So let's hope that what the front office prioritizes was the way that you ended that. And I think we're going to see that based off where the Bulls are as we get closer to midseason. If the Bulls are this 28-win team, but you have some young pieces that have made step promising, they just don't have the depth or the talent, or they're just still learning how to win, right? Because keep in mind, 26 clutch wins out of 39 games last season. If we're in that position where we're just not winning games, which happens to young teams, I think the front office prioritizes youth. If we're exceeding expectations, let's say the players did make a leap. Like a few of the young players made steps and leaps, and this Bulls team is looking like they're on pace for a 40-win or more season, I think that then that changes the prioritization from young players to let's find some win now pieces going forward around this core. That's my thought process, Bastion. But thanks. Great first voicemail. Thank you for the love. Appreciate you, brother. Let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Mike.
Hey, Hayes, it's Mike again. Thanks for your response to my question earlier about the Bulls' defensive scheme for the young core moving forward. I asked it because, I feel like the ceiling of this young core, the guys we have in place, Josh Giddey, Ayo, Kobe, Bucelis, P. Will, and Smith, really a lot of it has to do with how good the defense will be, their defensive rating. I just don't know if any contenders, could have that level of offense and a below average defense. And the acquisition of Giddey really concerns me because of his limitations defensively. And I'm just wondering, with Giddey starting and keeping most of this core in place, do you feel like the team defense could improve in the years? And if so, how could that happen? Thanks. Always appreciate hearing your thoughts.
How can the Bulls team defense improve next season? I say through effort. I think it just like most of defense comes down to effort. And I think if this team makes some big effort defensively, like Kobe White, who gave a lot of effort, like what he led the league in charges for a large part last season before he went down with injuries. Not to say that charges is necessarily defense, but I'm just saying if he continues to be active, that's the thing that it takes for defense is active. And I also think if Jalen Smith ends up being this more rim protective center that can also, block shots, protect the rim, turns into a better on-ball defender, like having defense and rim protection for this team that is a little light on the perimeter defensive side of things, if he can be that for this team, that really does change your defensive potential as well. So I think those things would have to happen, more effort, refinement of some things, and finding if Jalen Smith turns into this rim protecting athletic big that we need him to be, I think that definitely changes the team. All right, let's get into the next voicemail. The last one, this one is from Shay.
What's up, Hayes? It's Shay again. Look, man, I understand that a lot of people are so hyped about Josh Giddey, but I'm kind of a little torn because, yes, don't get me wrong, I want Josh Giddey to succeed with the Chicago Bulls, but I mean, let's face it, the man comes with more limitations, comes with more problems than when he comes with solutions. And by that, I mean like this. And I know I said this before in my voicemail, in your live voicemail call, but the man, although he tries, not a great defender. And then, too, he's not a prolific scorer. I know a lot of people gonna say, oh, Ben Simmons was like that, but Ben Simmons did more other stuff where it, covered up his lack of offensive his offensive weaknesses more than hurt his team. You know what I'm saying? Josh Giddey has defensive weaknesses and he has offensive weaknesses when it comes to like shooting three. I mean, again, and I know I said this before, but I feel like if it comes down to the point where him and Kobe can't play together, I feel like Josh Giddey has to be the odd man out. Now, I'm not saying that it will happen, but if it does, I'd say let Josh Giddey be the odd man out because, let's face it, Kobe's game can match with anybody's on the team. Him and Ayo have proven to be a reliable backcourt. And I feel like the Reinsdorfs, well, AK really hasn't really given this two backcourt a chance to really shine. I feel like of Kobe and Aya, and I feel like it could have did so much better before Josh Giddey even got here. So I'm not saying that it won't work with Josh Giddey, but if it comes down to being, hey, we got to pick one or the other, I'd say keep Kobe and Ayo and let Josh Giddey walk. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you sound crazy as hell, but that's just what I think about it, especially with Josh Giddey coming in with more problems than solutions. That's just me. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
Josh Giddey's offensive and defensive limitations, you're absolutely right, right? Like, and he's grown as a defender each year. He's grown as a three-point shooter each year, right? And like I've said with Josh Giddey, if he can just get that three-point shot to be respectable, we're talking about mid of the league, right? Where you have to at least play him at the three-point line because if you do leave him open, he'll take them and make them. Then that changes some things for your defense. That changes a lot for your defense, right? I mean, for your team and what these limitations are, but it comes down as well. What have I always said? It's about how you build. Team construction is important. If you know that Josh Giddey lacks these things, help put players around him that help mitigate those losses, right? And so that's something that this team has to look forward to as well as how are you building this actual team? Not just drafting talent to draft talent, not just bringing guys in to bring guys in. What do they help complement or bring that you're missing to your roster is hugely important. Now, if him and Kobe White can't play together, listen. Let's hope that that's not the case because that would make some things really interesting. Despite how Brian Washington feels, who left the first voicemail. And then Kobe and I love what you said there and how you ended this. Kobe and Ayo did not get a chance to really go into the season some people thought that, right? That maybe they would go into the 2024-25 season as your starting backcourt to see what they can bring for a full season. We're not going to get that theoretically, but I still think in the roles that they're in, they have to thrive in there. We're still going to see Kobe and Ayo minutes together. Make no mistake about it. And how they play in those minutes, that also could give the Bulls something to look at. But great voicemail there, Shay. Great time, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullsCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.